we're joined by Ms. Madhuri Bose, who is the granddaughter of Sarat Chandra Bose and the grandniece of Subhash Chandra Bose. She is a human rights advocate with the United Nations agencies in Geneva and East Africa, and also with the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. Madhuri, welcome to LitFestx.
Hello, and hello.
Madhuri, I think we are not getting your feed correctly. We just lost your sound there.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly clearly.
Okay. So Madhuri, in your very recent book, The Bose Brothers, you have tried to give a very in-depth account of what the vision was of Subhas and Sarat Chandra Bose for India. And clearly, you have spelt out in great detail a lot of what is not known in popular press today. Uh, Tell us a little bit about the key tenets of the Bose vision for India.
Well, if you allow me, I'd like to begin with the ethical code which Subhash Chandra Bose enunciated way back in 1926. Now, I think these were his own fundamental principles, but he wanted to put them out to his countrymen and women. And there are 9 principles, but I'd like to just quote 2, and you will immediately realize the relevance and importance of them. One is embracing sannyasa when your country needs you is a refined form of betrayal. And the second one is, by discarding life, you cannot attain the life divine. Now, in fact, what I would like to say is that the lives of the Bose brothers, my grandfather Sharat Chandra Bose and my great uncle Subhash Chandra Bose, speak for themselves. If you read their lives, how they lived their lives, what they did, what they stood for, you will begin to understand their principles and their philosophy. But what I would really ask anyone who is a follower of the Bose brothers to read their writings. Most of them are out, published. I have published quite a few of their unpublished writings. So I would appeal to all those who want to understand the Bose brothers to read their writings. And most of all, I think a fundamental address of Subhash Chandra Bose, which he gave at the Haripura Congress, is absolutely fundamental to India's problems and how they can be resolved. And in 1938, Subhash Chandra Bose is talking about fundamental rights for the Indian people. And if you compare those fundamental rights enunciated by Subhash Chandra Bose in 1938, you will find a reflection of them in our constitution and even in the United Nations Charter. So they were men of the 21st century and beyond.
Yeah. When you mention about the writings and the thinking for a post-independent India, you have also elaborated on some of the areas which they wanted to focus on for India as a country, as an economy, and do share with us one or two which you think are of key importance in today's times for the India story.
Well, as you know, the Bose brothers, Sharat Chandra and Subhash Chandra, stood for a united India. They never wanted a division of India. They wanted a united, fully independent, and socialist India. Well, socialism has been discarded in many parts of the world, but they always talked about socialism adapted to modern times. So I believe that they believed in the principles of socialism, which believes in egalitarianism and justice. And if they were here today, they would have applied those principles to Indian conditions. And also, of course, I think a major contribution of the Bose brothers was to promote communal harmony, which they did throughout their lives. And my grandfather, Sarat Chandra Bose, in the last years of his life, tried his best to keep India together and then Bengal together. But as you know, we could not succeed. And today we have a divided India and Pakistan to our west and Bangladesh to our east. And I think we all know the problems that have given rise to since partition.
Right. You have, in your book, you have taken a lot of sort of material from the writings as well as research that your father, Amir Bose, had passed on to you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, as you have seen, my book is really based on my father's first-hand accounts. Unfortunately, I was not born before 1950. I did not see my grandfather, who passed away very untimely in February 1950. And Subhash, as you know, we do not know what happened to him till today, since 18th August 1945. So my understanding and knowledge of the Bose brothers come entirely really from my father, Amyanath Bose, and from my readings of their many writings. And I have been privileged to also come to know their unpublished writings, because my father had preserved them, and many of those manuscripts his uncle Subhash had left with him, and for future publication, which we have done. And my father talked about the Bose brothers, his uncle and father, in many lectures. He wrote many pieces, and we now have this treasure to read and to follow. It's not only for our reading. I think we can rebuild India according to their ideals and dreams if we first understand what they wanted, and also they have left a blueprint for us to follow.
You mentioned that to understand the work of Subhash Chandra Bose, one needs to also look at the contributions and the role that Sarat Chandra Bose played in Subhash Bose's life, and how your father was able to document this role in great detail. Give us a quick peek into one or two major aspects that Sarat Chandra Bose had on Subhash Chandra Bose's life.
Well, as I have said many times, Sharat Chandra Bose was the power behind Subhash Chandra Bose. He was his mentor. He was older by 8 years. So he was his mentor, his friend, of course, his financier, and his comrade in arms, because they worked within the Congress platform together from the early 1920s right through to when Subhash left in 1941. Now, I think I would just like to mention a little anecdote which I heard from my aunt, Geeta Biswas. Now, she was a very young girl in the 1930s, but she was a very talkative and a very inquisitive girl. And she used to bother her uncle, Subhash, by asking many questions. And one question she put to him was, Ranga Kaka Babu, that's what they all called him. Have you seen God? How can one talk to him? How do we reach him? And Subhash responded and told his little niece Go and look at your father and you will know. So that is how Subhash saw his older brother, Sharat Chandra Bose.
Very interesting. And in the book, you have also spoken about the fact that, in contrast to a lot of the stalwarts of the freedom struggle, the Bros brothers together had a combined ideology of what they would like the post-independent India to be. So partly you mentioned, in terms of an undivided India, undivided Bengal, but they also had certain visions which they had, penned down. Would you like to share one or two of those for our viewers?
Yes, again, I would like to take you back to the Haripura address because he spells out his vision for modern India, independent India, in that address. Maybe, I mean, this is the blueprint he has left us. And he talks about the fundamental rights, as I mentioned. He talks about the importance of harmony and unity across the many communities who live in India. He has over and over again talked about Hindu-Muslim unity, which is becoming very critical in today's India. So I think if he wanted an economy which would serve everyone's needs. And for that, he promoted socialism, but I would say more the socialistic principles. I mean, we can go back to Vivekananda to understand socialism. It is not Marx who taught socialism or communism for the first time. So I would ask my viewers and those interested in a new India to go back to Vivekananda, who was also Subhash's spiritual guru, and see how on a everyday way they can promote communal harmony. And I think each one of us have a responsibility in doing that.
Um, Madhuri, when you mention about Subhash Chandra Bose's sort of entire journey, I'm sure there would be anecdotes which, like you said, are yet unpublished, but clearly you can offer a peek into some of the fantastic tales that would have done the rounds of your household, even before you were born, but which now you have access to. So, is there anything which really comes to mind which is probably not in the book as yet?
Well, I think one fact not many people would know about, Subhash was a keen photographer. And he took many photos, some of which we still have. And and as you know, he is possibly one of the most photographed leaders anywhere, and he was highly photogenic. So I think his interest in photography is something which is not known widely. And also in terms of his fantastic planning abilities. He, with his brother Sharat, had planned the entire escape in January 1941. Again, I don't think many people know the details, but it was planned in minute detail. When the car driven by my uncle would reach what is now Netaji Bhavan, that they would shut both doors at the same time, that that it would seem that only one person had entered the car, and then which route the car would take. So it is just amazing that these two men sort of planning and together how to escape the British surveillance. So that is something amazing, which makes a story of adventure, of great bravery, of courage. Words fail me to describe that. And I also want to mention another fact, again, which may not be very widely known, is that when Subhash was traveling back to Japan, to Asia, in early 1943, February 1943, the German submarine took him from northern Germany, Kiel, right down right down halfway across the high seas, from where Subhash had to jump onto a Japanese submarine, which would then take him to Asia, to Indonesia. And just imagine, the Second World War is raging, and this man jumps in the high seas from one submarine to another to get to Asia to fight for his country.
Certainly, it is a very adventurous story and one filled with anecdotes of courage and valor. Um, of late, you and the family have been really working hard to clear the air on several rumors or several claims by people that Subhash Chandra Bose was based in certain parts of India for several decades, and he spent his last few days here. And there was this whole thing about there being a Gumnami Baba in India who was in fact Subhash Chandra Bose. Now, what is the entire mystery around this, and where is this matter currently?
Well, I'm glad you raised this matter, because we in the Bose family, we are really very concerned, because I fail to see why anyone, any intelligent human being with common sense, would even begin to suspect that Subhash Chandra Bose returned to India and lived in India for 30 years with incognito. I think we have discussed the courage, the bravery, and the sacrifice that made Subhash. So is he a man who would live in hiding for 30 years and not come out to serve his country? No, we do not believe it. We do not know where the story comes from, who is supporting the story. And we would like to challenge whoever is supporting this theory to come out in public and tell us if they know something which we do not know. So I think it is a very serious matter. The story is spreading, and I would like all those who believe in the Bose brothers, who respect and admire these two men, to try and challenge such stories. And as you know, there are other such stories as well. Well, why don't we forget? Everyone is trying to bring back Subhash in flesh. Let us go back to the legacy he has left behind, and let us see what we can do to realize his dreams, rather than try and get him back, which is really not possible, not in this world.
Right. But what has been the basis for these stories or claims? Has anything been put out to the family to support the claims that Subhash Chandra Bose did in fact come to India and live here for decades?
Well, not really, although we have seen a few books which have come out, especially about Gumnami Baba. But I have read one of the books. I was really looking for even some evidence why, one would be led to think that that was Subhash Chandra Bose. I did not find any. So I'm still waiting, and we are still waiting to learn about matters which the family does not know yet. So I can only appeal to those who are promoting these theories to come out in the open and tell the Indian people. We, as you know, I mean, for the Bose brothers, their countrymen and women were far more important than their family. So let them come out and tell the people of India and the world. Because Subhash Chandra Bose, more unfortunately, more than my grandfather, Sharat Chandra Bose, is now known worldwide. And though I would like to mention that when my grandfather passed away on 20 February 1950, the New York Times had headlined that Sharat Chandra Bose, the number one rival of Jawaharlal Nehru, passes away. So he was coming in to prominence, and he would have led India in a very different manner. But, well, we are unfortunate that he passed on much before his time.
But clearly, Madhuri, I think this is a very interesting period where the family is now grappling with such stories and claims, and we can only hope that sooner than later there is evidence out there which can either prove or disprove these allegations. And till then, good luck with all your work, and also with the book. And may the Bose legacy survive and thrive in India.
Thank you, Kumar. Thank you.